going off to the committee meetings. I wonder if you could indulge me for a few minutes. I won't be able to be here tomorrow. As many of you know, my mother passed away on Sunday. And,
Yes.
And by the way, thanks for the condolences and the letters. You've all been very thoughtful, and appreciate that very much. But my brothers and I will be burying her tomorrow in Philadelphia. I did want to make a few remarks, so please indulge me. Jerry Sandusky is convicted as a sick and monstrous man. Under the guise of helping children, he victimized them. Those victims continue to suffer to this day. Some were victimized on our campus, and we take as much responsibility for that as is humanly possible. By shining the light on what happened and becoming a leader against child sexual abuse, we hope to save tens of thousands of potential future victims nationwide from a similar fate, as well as help those who have suffered here. Education and awareness is the key to reducing sexual abuse, which is a plague upon this nation. Education is what we're all about. 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys are sexually abused. Sexual abuse is not a rarity. It's all too common in this society, and we've learned that it's not only happened at Penn State, but on other colleges and universities. If there's any good that's come from this tragedy, it's that it's shown the spotlight on this epidemic of child abuse and the challenges to stop it. Penn State is a great university. It was a great university prior to November, and it is today. It was a great university prior to the Free Report, and it is today. Penn State was a great university before the NCAA's unfair sanctions were forced upon it, and it is today. We have had high admission standards. We're one of the top universities not only in the United States and in the world, and this has been lost in some of this. Penn State leads the way in many fields. The Penn State faculty, staff, students, alumni, and the entire Penn State community contribute significantly to Pennsylvania, the United States, and the global society. Once we became aware of this tragedy, and we've also learned that villains of this type are great manipulators and cover-up artists, we did everything a good institution should do to move forward, and we took action to get the facts out. We hired an independent investigator to explore and provide his expert opinions and findings. However, the Free Report, despite what the NCAA consent decree says, is still being reviewed, as we heard here today, and has not been fully accepted. We committed to a full disclosure. We committed to move forward in a healthy way, correcting what was wrong and providing information to law enforcement officials so that those accused would have their day in court. Penn State has had a clean and enviable track record, one of only 3 universities in the entire country to never have had a major sanction by the NCAA. Penn State has maintained one of the highest graduation rates among football athletes compared to peer institutions. This didn't just occur in 1 year. It didn't just occur in 1 decade. It's occurred decade after decade. One should then ask, why is it that the NCAA wants to tear down this model? Why is the NCAA, which includes among its members universities and colleges who graduate 20% of their basketball players and 50% of their football players, sanctioning Penn State for allowing athletics to trump academics, when it's Penn State, which graduates 88% of its football players, not 1 year or 2, but year after year, decade after decade. These sanctions, I believe, are a blight on the NCAA and the institutions that make it up. My 9-year-old son said to me, "Dad, I helped cheer Penn State on to victory last year, and now those wins have been erased. I did what you always told me to do. Dad, I gave it my all, and my cheering and enthusiasm helped support the student athletes. I felt good when we won the games. It does not seem fair to me that they took away those wins, not only from Penn State, but away from the athletes, from the fans, and from me." Hundreds of thousands of Penn State families have similarly suffered. How does this help the concept of higher education, of fairness and dignity, of inspiration? What is even based on? What does it even mean? It's a fiction. The games were won based on hard work by thousands unrelated to Sandusky and his crimes. It's one more fiction that the NCAA has used to simply inflict hurt on the Nittany Nation with no benefit to anyone. It is designed to damage innocent athletes, innocent students who played on the field, and millions who attended the games. It's a petulant child gone wild. The NCAA, in my view, has lost its moral compass. In the cold light of day, we must realize we have to stand up against this, not stand down. There's also the issue of the vultures, coaches from other schools, stalking our football players outside the football building after the NCAA said it was legal to steal away our players, even though the NCAA normally considers such recruiting illegal. The NCAA essentially said stealing is legal against Penn State. If we must play the schools that did that, let the crowds overwhelm them with our noise and good sportsmanship, and the Nittany Lions show them no mercy on the field. Should we even be part of the Big Ten if our own conference schools help tear us down? I thought they were here to help us, not hurt us. In my view, this does not fit with the ideals of fair play that we teach our students. In the cold light of day, we must realize we have to stand up against this, not stand down. The NCAA are people who tell Penn State that we put athletics before academics. The reverse is true. Perhaps these university presidents were looking in the mirror when they conjured up that statement. For institutions of higher learning to disregard the facts and reach false conclusions betrays the very core principles for which institutions of higher learning stand and have stood for centuries. Shame on them all. I'm tired of being told we need to put practicality above principle. In the cold light of day, we must realize we have to stand up against this, not stand down. Our lawyers have used the term, quote, cram down, where Emmerich, the man who, quote, negotiated, unquote, with our president, Rod Erickson, essentially said, you sign this agreement or you have the death penalty. You'll play no football for 4 years. Also, Mr. President, you're not allowed to tell the Board of Trustees that you're going to do this, because if you tell them and it leaks out, we'll settle for nothing less than 4 years of winds of October and November blowing through your empty Beaver Stadium. By the way, Dr. Erickson, we do not care if by not telling the Board of Trustees you may be violating the charter of the university. And we do not care, Mr. President, that by not telling the Board of Trustees and getting their approval, you will be violating one of the major recommendations of the free report itself and the very principles we are telling you to abide by. We are the NCAA, Mr. President, and we are a dictatorship. We do what we please, and you as an NCAA member must accept it. So we have power over your institution now and forever. Interestingly, some in the NCAA said it did not happen that way. They say no death penalty was threatened. But review of the quotes from Emmerich and Ray support that it occurred just as President Erickson said it did. I'll pass out a review of those quotes that demonstrates these comments. But even there, a straight answer from the NCAA seems impossible to secure. We see parsed words and a clear attempt to paint Dr. Erickson as a liar. This, too, is not acceptable. In the cold light of day, I believe we have to stand up against this, not stand down. Are these the tactics and this lack of clarity and candor what the NCAA stands for? Threats, coercion, lying, stealing, and intimidation are not what we teach our students as appropriate business tactics for profits and nonprofit organizations. I would hope such answers on a test would get a failing grade for ethics in the Smeal College of Business and in a law class at the Dickinson School of Law. In addition, the very processes of the NCAA were not followed by the NCAA, and the NCAA seems hell-bent on turning a deaf ear to concerns by anyone to review its own despicable actions. In the cold light of day, I believe we have to stand up against this, not stand down. This all contrasts very sharply with the aggressive actions Penn State took quickly and with transparency and candor as the difficult news around the Sandusky crimes came to light. I personally believe the NCAA is no longer worthy to be considered a representative of higher education. Furthermore, this powerful NCAA, an association of university presidents, apparently free of control by the faculty of these colleges and universities and the university boards, is now damaging the mission and reputation of higher education in America. The NCAA needs the fresh air of reform to blow through it. I say to the faculties and the boards of American higher education, take back your institutions. I applaud the recent action of our own faculty senate in this regard. Finally, if any of the sanctions against Penn State are to stand, They need to fit within the rules and standards of the NCAA, need to fit within the due process of the NCAA procedures in its charter and bylaws that its member institutions have agreed upon, and needs to meet the fair, high standards that higher education stands for in a system of fairness and within the American system of the rule of law and justice. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you.